Rob, interesting comments. You've heard of Ken Burns. He's a great documentarian, and film producer.
The great one on baseball. I mean, that's one of the best documentaries.
Oh,
if
he's
you haven't
great.
seen it, it really is
baseball, jazz. He's done that as well. He's great at this. He Emmy Award winning filmmaker, and Rob is not impressed with The Last Dance. I don't know if you caught wind of this, but he said, "I find it the opposite direction of where we need to be going. If you are there influencing the very fact," he's talking about Michael Jordan, "of it getting made, it means that certain aspects that you don't necessarily want in aren't going to be in, period. And that's not the way to do good journalism. And it's certainly not the way you do good history. My business." So he's saying, look, I mean, we've talked about it. Michael Jordan has total say in this thing. Now, I'm going to say this first, Rob. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying The Last Dance. I like it. It's given us something to talk about all week. And I'm enjoying watching it, even though there's no earth-shattering, things that we haven't seen before in it yet. And you and I covering the league at that time, we knew a lot of this, if not all of it. But I just think it's very interesting and enjoyable. But I can't disagree with what Ken Burns is saying. It's not going to be the ultimate documentary that we kind of heard it would be because Michael Jordan has control. So let's just put it out there on the table, Rob. Most likely, we're not going to see any real coverage of the gambling controversies. We're not going to see any real objective coverage of him going to Atlantic City during the playoffs. We're not going to see any real objective coverage of, was he asked or told by the league that he needs to bow out for a year and a half? Those things aren't going to be in it. Vinny Goodwill, we had him on talking about, the whole situation with the Pistons. And, I mean, that should have definitely been in there. What Jordan said about them the day before the walk-off.
Remember when we had Joe Dumars on, he said, I heard it. We all heard it.
I mean, it was a big part. And it doesn't mean that what the Pistons did was right. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, because Dumars still shook his hand. Right. So, but you still could have put it in there. What I'd say, though, is this. Even though Ken Burns is ultimately right, I think there's different types of documentaries. And, when you generally watch the Sports Centuries or the 30 for 30s or, a lot of these documentaries, they don't get into some of the more unseemly parts of a player or whoever they're talking about. But it's still an entertaining documentary. And that's how I look at this. Very entertaining. I think it's good for this generation to see, but you just got to know what it is. It's not telling the entire story.
But a documentary is supposed to, so that's why.
But most don't. Let's keep it real. If you go back and look at the Sports Center on Jim Brown, is it going to get into a lot of the off the court stuff or off the field?
Well, but that's why a lot of those are when they do it, they give you a PG, is that PG rating, because they don't include that stuff. And I get what Ken Burns is saying. It would be like doing a documentary on baseball and leaving out that they didn't allow black players in the league. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of washed over that. Like, so I understand what he's saying, and we all knew, Chris, both of us, that with Jordan having control, all those stories we would love to hear about, we weren't going to hear about.
Like what Jay Mariotti, his whole column, everything he wanted to see, and I'm sure he knew too, Rob. We talked about him to him last week.
But none of it was in there.
No, and you're right. And it wasn't going to be, it just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So, like, you're not shocked, I'm not shocked, but I get what Ken Burns is saying. It would be good to go back, and that's why it can't be controlled by Michael Jordan. But if Michael Jordan wasn't in control of it, he wouldn't be a part of it.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And he's not just a part of it, he's the story. That's what it's about.
I don't even know. If Isaiah went on there, and he was on it, and said, Jordan did this to me, I know that Michael went to them or whatever. Would that be on?
No.
It It wouldn't have been in there.
No way, no how, to quote somebody I know. It's true. No question about it. And here's the thing, too, though, because I remember when I was reading about the documentary before it started, before it was aired on ESPN, and it was talking about, we followed this, Rob. We followed the team from, for the 1997-98 season. Okay, a team they're only going to let you either see so much or use so much. I mean, let's keep it real. If Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan had a knockdown, drag-out fist fight, you think that's going to be in the documentary? No way.
Only if Michael won. No.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. Like, they had control even then. Like, and I get it. It's human nature. But if I'm controlling a documentary about Chris Broussard, there's certain I'm controlling it, and I'm gonna tell my best story, leave enough of the controversy in to make you feel like, okay, it was kind of real, but I'm not just telling it like maybe some totally objective person from the outside would.
That's why unauthorized biographies are the best. Do you know what I mean? Where the guy doesn't participate and you get other people to speak freely about what's going on, because most people don't want to leave. Most people want to leave out that stuff, but there's room for people to do it, and most of the time, unfortunately, you can't have the person you're doing it on be involved to get the true story, because most people want to shield the flaws and the mistakes and what happened.
Right.
But I don't know. I think if.
But you're enjoying it.
No, I'm enjoying it, but I know what it is.
Would it be worth? Because here's the thing, and you and I both agree with Ken Burns, but the alternative is, okay, we don't do it at all. I'd rather have what we have. I'd rather see it, but like you said, knowing what it is, knowing it's not the end-all, be-all story on Michael Jordan, but it's still very good, and I think it's telling a good story.
Yeah, no, that's the way you have to look at it, and that's kind of like what we always talk about, Chris. And me and you were trained to be journalists and all that, and went to school for it. But that's why we always talk about when you got players interviewing other players. It's It's just you're not going to get the whole story. And I'm not knocking people for wanting to do their own thing, but I'm just telling you, when you're listening to that, you have to realize that they have a relationship, they have a friendship, and a lot of times they're going to leave out the stuff because they already know that Joe Blow won't be on the show if we ask him about that. Do you know what I mean? Going in.
Yep.
So to me as a viewer, I'm frustrated if you were to bring in somebody and just the late Bill Buckner. You bring in Bill Buckner, and Chris, you decide we're not going to ask him about the ball going through his legs in the '86 World Series.
Right.
What's the sense of having him on?
Right. We're not doing it.
Am I right? We're not.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of an extreme version because.
But you know what I mean.
You only want to see Bill Buckner to kind of talk about that because he wasn't, Mickey Mantle or,
But I'm
Wade
just saying
Boggs
you can't have a conversation with him without addressing that.
You got to legitimately ask that question.
And we've had, like, over the course of just radio in general, sometimes people will offer up guests to a radio show. And they'll say, but he's not talking about this.
Right.
And right away, Chris or I, or like in years gone by, my other part, we'd be like, no, thank you.
What's the point?
Because we couldn't do it. We can't do it to our listeners. No. He's not talking about what the most important thing people want to hear about, then we're not interested in having him. I don't care how big the star is.
Rob G just said something in my ear. What?
That exact situation happened earlier this spring with the Tom Brady situation. Remember, we were going to get someone from the Patriots. They're like, well, I can't talk about Tom Brady. Well, then never mind.
What did we say?
Yeah. I thought you meant we were going to get Tom Brady.
No.
Rob, what did we say about that?
Right.
Yeah, we said never mind. Maybe we'll talk to you after he decides that.
Right.
And then
it
we
was
never
pointless.
hit him up after
what?
that.
We can't talk about Tom Brady?
Otherwise, we don't need you. Right.
And I think it's like we said, Rob, you just got to know going in what it is. Because there have been I love the sports centuries. I knew what they were. They were touting the athlete and maybe not telling the entire story, but it was good for what it was. And I think this is very good for what it is, but you're not going to get, the whole story. It's not going to address the seedy elements that may have been there. But, interesting point by Ken Burns. And, he made a good point. He made a very good point. All right. 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. Has the Last Dance documentary been too biased toward Michael Jordan? Were you expecting something different than what we've gotten so far?
Phil in Virginia, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What you got, Phil?
Hey, Rob and Chris, appreciate you guys having me call in. Couple things.
Thank you.
Number one, it's not too favorable towards Mike, but at the same time, I have an issue with what Ken Burns said. This isn't journalism. I mean, this isn't public media. Michael's protecting his legacy here, so I have no issue with it. I think it's great. I think it's great that it's coming on during this quarantine, and it's keeping us all involved. But I do have one more thing. It's a baseball thing.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Can I mention I got a baseball idea for you, Rob.
What is that?
I think if safety precautions are put in place, opening day for baseball should be July 4th on a Saturday. Wouldn't that be amazing?
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, that would be July 4th.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie. I like that.
To be honest, at this point, though, we'd take it any day.
No, we would.
June 30th, July 7th.
You don't even know, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Brutal.
Right. But that's a good idea. That was a good call.
The weather, yeah, that was good. All right, appreciate it. Phil, let's go to – my phone is acting up. All right, let's go to Adam in Salt Lake City. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Adam?
Thank you for taking my call, gentlemen.
Yep.
Well, there is a such thing as being too favorable, because if you're going to tell the story, shouldn't you be willing to tell the whole story instead of just the big old glamorous parts? I mean, it's like somebody wanted to do a documentary on Joe Montana. Yeah, he'd be willing to talk about the 4 Super Bowls, but what about the 3 years the Niners couldn't even win a playoff game or even score an offensive touchdown with Joe under center?
Well, I mean,
that's what we're saying.
If you have independent people doing it, right? If you have independent people, some people, putting the whole story out there. That's why I say most of them are always unauthorized, Chris, because that's the only way you're going to get somebody who's going to go into it, take everything into account, and then put out the story the way that they see it.
But what I'd say, Rob, is I think most docs, at least sports docs, are like this. I mean, wouldn't you agree? Most that not all, not all, but I think most that we do see are kind of like this. Don't you'd agree with that? Most aren't telling the whole story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's why some of them are hard to watch, because they leave out the good stuff.
Yeah.
Isaiah in Baltimore, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Isaiah?
Hey, you guys. Happy Friday. First, I just want to say I want to wish a quick happy birthday to Gigi Bryant. She would have been 14 today, so just want to say happy birthday to her and condolences to Vanessa and the family. I'm not surprised at all that the media is doing this for Jordan, because, look, here's my thing about Michael Jordan. No matter what you can say about off the court, this and that, he's 6-0 in the NBA Finals. So no matter, to me, if he didn't want the whole story to be shown, I just would ask him, if I was a friend of his, why not? Nobody is going to look at this from a basketball standpoint and think any less of you. Now, when all that off-the-court stuff comes about, whether it be people who say, see, Jordan's doing this and that, and see, Michael Jordan never had to go through how powerful the media is today. It's just a whole different thing, and how critical people will be.
Isaiah, let me say this to you. It's the difference between when people plea out of a case or something because they don't want people to go on a stand on the record and talk about the details of what happened. You know what the difference is? One is rumor or hearsay, and one is sworn testimony on the record. Do you see the difference? So you could have those rumors about me and say I did this and I was doing that. But when you get it in sworn, quote unquote, sworn testimony on the record, and the guy's putting his name and face to it and say, this is what went down. Or if Michael would have said, name the players who were doing the cocaine. Do you see what I'm saying? Not just saying.
It's unrealistic
it's a big difference.
To expect that Michael Jordan would have been like, oh, yeah, let's get in all that. Remember
Chris,
the
am I
book
right? Am I right? The difference,
yeah.
like sworn testimony is totally different from hearsay.
Yeah, no question. And right now, everything about negative about Jordan is hearsay.
Right.
We don't know if
hearsay.
it's true or not, but if he puts it in his own documentary, especially now, I mean, this thing is getting so much attention.
Right.
That if he were to put it out there, I just there's no way somebody's gonna do it. And I don't.
Hey,
none of us know the whole story.
No, we don't. Let's squeeze in Dwight real quick. Dwight in Texas. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Dwight?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I listen to your show every night. Appreciate you having me on. Hey, real quick. Just I agree with you, Chris, about now the Atlantic City situation. That was huge news in a regards to the playoff game that Mike participated in against the Knicks. But let me say this real quick, fellas, regards to the Isaiah Thomas, why he wasn't on the team. Another thing that nobody's talked about. His own teammate, Adrian Dantley, hates that guy to this day because everybody know he got him traded for Mark Aguirre, okay?
Everybody,
right.
yeah.
Right.
If you're Adrian Dantley, you're not going to feel good. He was on a team that had a chance to win a championship, and AD never won one.
Yep, and AD was a phenomenal player.
No,
but
I get that.
That didn't have anything to do with him not being on the Dream Team, though.
Right.
AD didn't have a say in that.
No, he was mad at him because
right. And did it make other players, maybe a Karl Malone, think differently of Isaiah? Who knows? Maybe, but no, that really didn't have anything to do with the Dream Team.